So community. The second of my C's, and notice here I have 2 C's for this second. I'm really into this. Consumers and citizens. This is the work of Peter Block. And Block does a tremendous amount, he's an organizational consultant, does a tremendous amount of work on communities. And he distinguishes between those people who are consumers and those people who are citizens. Now, consumers are passive people. What they do is that they wait for the other to satisfy their needs. And so it's a very passive position. If you think about that, TV is one of our best delivery systems for consumers, because not only does it deliver information about what people need, it helps them to learn more about what they need, even if they didn't know they needed it. And so we have learned how to be terribly passive. What Block is saying is that if consumers are passive, citizens are active. Citizens are people who are willing to be responsible for and hold themselves accountable for the whole of the community. You don't wait to be served, you step forward in order to serve the purpose of the whole. How are we doing? We okay so far? We are in a mainline denomination that has fostered dependence for the last several generations. We have tried to meet the needs of congregations, whether they are in growth modes or transformational modes, by providing products and services that would care for them. I just invite you to think about how dependent our system is. If you are a clergy person and you don't like your appointment, whose problem is it? It's the district superintendent's. And the district superintendent gets a telephone call and the conversation's about, you didn't give me the congregation I need. And if you're a congregation and you didn't get the pastor that you needed, whose problem is it? It's the district superintendent. You didn't provide the leadership. Do you hear it? We are in a dependent system at a time when we will be asking people to step up to be citizens. And to get dependent consumers to step up to be citizens means that we have to ask people to vote against their own self-interests. Don't miss that. I would like to nominate any number of other people to be citizens, if I can only keep what I have. No, that's not how community works. We're going to have to redefine community. We're going to help consumers become citizens. And we need to deal with civility. You all have been talking about this today, if you've been in the conversations around the tables, the need for civility. We are in a culturally uncivil moment. Stephen Carter, the professor of law at Yale University, in his book on civility, talks about the fact that civility and uncivility are a cyclical movement in our culture. How many of you have seen those cartoons where people bring fruits and vegetables to the theater, so if they don't like the performance, they will throw? Those cartoons are cartoons because that actually happened. People would go to performances or they would go to lectures armed. Because the standard was that if you were unhappy, you had the right and the responsibility to demonstrate it. Those are uncivil moments. We are currently in an uncivil moment ourselves. Which again, is why I think we're talking so much about holy conferencing and holy conversations. I would like to suggest that when we begin to talk about holy conferencing or holy conversations, when we begin to talk about covenants with one another, we are talking about disciplines that are to be practiced. Now hear this in terms of the opportunity that JustPeace has moving into the future. We are a denomination that is interested in making disciples. We no longer make members. I don't know if you heard that shift. We don't make members anymore. Now we make disciples. Did you notice that when I went by? The problem is we don't know what a disciple is yet. We don't know how to define a disciple, but now, listen to the clues that we're beginning to use with our language as we teach ourselves into this thing. If we want to make disciples, disciples are people who practice what? Disciplines. What is trust? It is a discipline. What is forgiveness? It is a discipline. What is community? It is a discipline. JustPeace has much to teach others by what you have already learned. Well, my last of my C's, and we have to kind of move toward the end here. And this is the one that I think we're most familiar with. It's simply the C that stands for conversation. I too have been captured by Margaret Wheatley, who has said that every single revolutionary movement that has changed humanity started as a conversation between two people. And in that conversation, they have discovered some truth that when they share it, it catches on for other people. Change does not need to start with a large group of people. It can start very small. In this case, they can all fit in one room. But it's a willingness to have conversation about purposeful things. And now we're back to having better things to argue about. That we need to be willing to go into structured conversations that are safe about important things. And we need to be able to help other people talk about purposeful things. So, where that all comes down is thanks to JustPeace, to Tom, to Stephanie, to all of you who have been in here, because for 10 years now you have been leading conversations that are moving closer to the kingdom of God. But we need to keep those conversations focused, and we need to keep inviting others in. So JustPeace, thank you. Thanks for what you have done. Thanks for the people that you are. Thanks for helping the United Methodist Church and others to be more than an institution. And thanks for a pretty good dinner. That was all right. I like it.